And it is Keep It Simple time on Cash Flow Podcast again. We are glad to have you back. I am sharing with you little bits and pieces of what we share in our Keep It Simple squad every other week. So we're bringing the best tips to you here so that you get easy answers to the most common finance questions that I have heard from entrepreneurs over the last 10 years. And some of them are starting to change now as the economy's changing a little bit. And one of the ones I hear, because a lot of people have bookkeepers and they do their books for them, and they may talk to them once a quarter or even once a year when it's tax time and not really know what the heck's going on. But maybe you check in and say, hey, are things okay? And you rely on them to tell you, hey, it's good or not good. So the question I got this week, which I love, is exactly, I'm going to read it exactly. My bookkeeper says I'm fine. Should I believe them? That's a great question. So I'm going to give you probably two, maybe three things you can do to answer that question very simply. One, I would ask the bookkeeper the question a little bit differently about am I fine, am I not fine? I would say, explain my cash flow to me. Okay? And your bookkeeper should be able to talk to you and say, hey, looking at the last 12 months or 6 months or however long you want to look, here is how much cash you've either put in the bank or taken out of the bank, and here's why. Okay? So if your bookkeeper can answer that question for you in a way that you understand it and that makes sense to you, then you can go, yep, I'm okay or not okay based on that answer. All right? Now, a couple things that does, which are kind of cool. One, it tests your bookkeeper's knowledge and strength at bookkeeping, because bookkeepers are like so many other things. You can literally take a certification from QuickBooks that's actually a textbook case on how to sell QuickBooks. It has nothing to do with actually teaching you to be a bookkeeper. That's my personal opinion, not the opinion. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is the opinion of the business because I am the business. So they can take that certification, learn how to sell QuickBooks, but not necessarily be good bookkeepers. So one of the things you really want to make sure is that you've got a bookkeeper who knows what they're doing. And a bookkeeper who knows what they're doing, you can ask that question. I know you're telling me I'm fine, but now explain to me how the cash is working in my business. How much am I making? How much is going out? Am I making more than is going out? And show me how that's been playing out. So there's thing number one, ask the bookkeeper. Thing number two, there's this really cool AI tool thing that's out there now. You might have heard of it. And I'm using this personally with a number of my clients, and I'm teaching the KISS Club, which is the Keep It Simple Squad Club, that we'll drop some information here on how you can sign up for that if you're interested, because I'm going into a little bit more detail. But here, I'm literally going to say that you can take any of your favorite AI tools, be it ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, whatever's happening with Meta now, any tool that's a solid, good AI tool. And literally put a prompt in that says, you are my CFO. My bookkeeper has sent me these reports. How am I doing? How am I doing in my business? And then add this prompt, because you never actually want to ask a question without adding this prompt. Tell me whatever else you need to know to give us a 95% chance that you're going to ace this task. Okay? You can put that at the end of any prompt. There's your separate tip for the day. So you're going to say, hey, here's what my bookkeeper sent me. How's my business doing? And then before you hit enter, say, what else do you need to know to be 95% certain you're going to give me a good answer? Okay? And it'll come back and ask you a couple questions. How long have you been in business? What are your goals for the business? What do you need personally from the business? It'll vary what questions ask, but you're going to answer those questions. And then very quickly, like before you can blink, in some cases, it's going to go, here's the story. You could even get so specific as to ask it questions like, am I going to have enough cash for the year? Am I going to have enough cash to hire somebody? Am I going to have enough cash to pay myself? You can get really specific then after they spit out that first answer and ask what's really worrying you. Because asking the question, my bookkeeper says I'm fine, should I believe them, leaves it pretty wide open. Am I fine is different for everybody. Am I fine for a business that wants to be paying 90 employees, including themselves, and have just 1% left at the end of the year is very different than am I fine for a freelancer who's paying their own personal bills with the money that's made in the business. So that's why you really want to give it the chance to ask you some questions. So number one, ask your bookkeeper, and while you're at it, that'll let you evaluate how good they are. And number two, take whatever they send you, pop it into a ChatGPT, any one of your AI tools, and you can, if you're worried about privacy, you can just make it a PDF and black out your company name and black out anything else you don't want it to see, which I do a lot for my clients. I always get their permission. But I'll often double check my own analysis, right? I'm doing CFO level analysis for these clients. I'm going to take that information with their permission, pop it in ChatGPT, pop my analysis in and say, what did I miss? And there are times it finds stuff I missed. There are times it doesn't and just rehashes stuff, but every now and then it finds something pretty important. So that's my number two tip for that. And then finally, my bookkeeper says I'm fine. Should I believe him? That's really a question about trust. And if you've hired a bookkeeper, my hope is that you know, love, and trust them, that you spend enough time doing the research to hire them, to know, love, and trust them. A lot of times what happens in our businesses is we have, Aunt Joan doing my books because they were a bookkeeper 100 years ago. They don't know what QuickBooks Online is. They don't know what Xero is. They don't know what any of these new tools are. But they have been doing the books forever. I trust them. I love them. I don't actually ever see reports. I can't really ask them any questions about it, but they're doing it. If you're in that situation, you may love your aunt, but you don't trust their bookkeeping. And you know you don't trust their bookkeeping because number one, they're doing it a long time. They're doing it with old tools. And number two, they may or may not even be a bookkeeper. And along that same line, a lot of what will happen is in some businesses, they'll have just a regular admin who's great at admin stuff. And it becomes very easy to say, and I see this all the time, oh, can you just keep my books for me too? And they'll go, yeah, whatever, sure. And they do the tasks of the bookkeeping, but they don't understand the tasks of the bookkeeping. One of the main reasons I get clients, and I actually love this, is that people in that situation who are doing that work are really uncomfortable because they don't know what they're doing. So I'll often come in and coach them up to really understand how to be a bookkeeper if that's what they want. And then they can add so much more value, right? So thing number one, ask your bookkeeper just outright to explain the financials to you so you know and understand in your language that you're doing well. Number two, test it on ChatGPT. And number three, trust your gut. If something's telling you you need to ask that question, if you need to ask me that question, something's bugging you. And the best thing all of us entrepreneurs can do is trust our gut. So if that thing is bugging you, do a real evaluation internally of the toughest thing to do as a business owner, which is, do I keep them or do I fire them and find another one? And that's probably the hardest of the three things. So the steps are simple. The third one's not as easy to implement if it's time to do whatever it is. So that's our Keep It Simple for today. We touched a little on psychology, we touched a little on practical action, and I touched on a very cool squad we've pulled together called the Keep It Simple Squad, where you can get answers to these questions in even more depth. But we're going to keep covering them here at a high level so you know what questions to ask and a little bit about how to attack them. We want to make sure every entrepreneur has the access to understand their finances and not be anxious about them. You have a great week, and we'll see you on the next episode.